Hello, welcome to today's video. It's about c-betting in 3-bet pots. Many people of you have simplified strategies. Some make sense and some don't. Let's have a look at one or two things today. So the first thing we are looking at is on the button we 3-bet and the cutoff calls, and then we c-bet. Many people approach this pot with range c-bet 33% maybe, some go 25%, some go larger. When 3-betting in position, especially when it's not the big blind, range c-betting in position makes a lot of sense in many boards. The c-bet frequency, even in theory, is high. And now let's have a look at one board, which is jack high boards without anything special. I just built it for the jack high boards. It can be paired, can have flush draws, can be connected or disconnected. And you'll see that generally across all jack high boards, betting 1/3 in theory is very good. So you can definitely range c-bet here for 1/3. Range c-betting means betting every single combo you have. It doesn't matter whether you have a pair like here, over pairs, top pair, nothing, ace high, king high, queen high. You just always bet for 1/3. Or in this spot you could actually bet 50% as well. But generally speaking, as you can see here, 1/3 will be fine as well. On the right you see the overall strategy for your range. And here the 1/3, I press with the pocket jacks, the top set. And you see the strategy here below for this hand specifically. I'll give you a couple of different jack high boards and you'll see that on most of them the correct c-bet strategy is 1/3, and the checking frequency, even here on this monotone board, have a look, we will press 1/3 again, it's very little checking back. So you will not have a mistake if you range c-bet for 1/3 on jack high boards in position on the button against the cutoff. Let's have a look at a few more and then I'll show you on which boards this strategy is not good. Just an example, of course, of boards. Here the ace queen, let's have one more, ace jack. You see the boards change. I filtered jack high boards, but every single combo of jack high boards that is possible. And yeah, now that we've got 10 high right, I think that's enough. So one of the reasons that you can actually range c-bet for 1/3 on jack high boards is that it's theoretically sound. Have a look here at the filters. You check back only 5% of the time, and the preferred sizing is usually 1/3. You do have 50% c-bets, but you never c-bet larger than 50% in position on the button against the cutoff in 3-bet pots when the board's largest card is a jack. So now when you simplify your strategy, of course you will be a little bit different than theory, but it's important that it has some fundamental in theory, unless you play against a recreational player, a very bad player, or maybe in an anonymous pool where people don't know who you are. But if you play against another regular, you will have to, especially on the flop, have a strategy that is theoretically sound. Having a simplified strategy will help you with your performance, and here you can see that jack 4-2 c-bets 50%. So once you know that jack 4-2 rainbow c-bets 50% and jack 7-2 with a flush draw you bet 1/3, then great, you can implement a more complicated strategy where you have those differences between two sizings. But for now, having one size is important. But now I want to focus on outer position. Here we have a 3-bet on the small blind against the button who calls, and we decide what to c-bet. Now I filtered the board for 10 high, 9 high and 8 high boards, and without it being paired or monotone, because paired and monotone has a lot of exceptions, and also connected boards we leave for another time. But we'll basically see boards with a straight draw, flush draw, or just very dry boards, and you will see that your opponents back in the day did a lot of mistakes, but still up to today some regulars make mistakes here which shouldn't be doing. A 1/3 c-bet strategy for range here just has no theoretical fundamental here. On lower boards like the 10, 9 and 8 high boards that I filtered here, usually the preferred sizing is 50% or 75%. You look at the top of the range, these are the sizings they want to use, so your range adapts for those sizings, and the checking frequency has to be quite high on many of those boards, so betting range does not make sense. The other thing you need to consider is that it is not that important whether you get 50% or 75% right. Usually it is mixed strategies, so a hand can do two sizings, preferring one, but to be protected or for whatever reason it doesn't always choose the same size. So what you can do at these stakes is simplify the strategy by choosing one size per board. So you look at this board and you see that the 50% is well better than 75%. But then there are some rules you can see on the board that will make you an easier time to identify the 75% sizing boards. So generally having the knowledge of when to c-bet 50%, when to 75%, but getting this one wrong, everyone gets it wrong, and also not mixing, so not taking this hand and sometimes, as you can see on the right, betting 75%, sometimes 50%, it's not a huge deal. You just need one sizing per board. Here I chose the 50%. Again, you saw you can do the larger one. Let's have a look at more boards, all random, just filtered 1098 high. And the 7s here. You see, I go for the 50 and it could have been smaller. Sorry for the 75%. Here, ace jack. Remember the checking frequency, okay? So I'm not using the RNG. On the left you see the little dice, it's an RNG. I'm not using it, but I'm just trying to guess the correct sizing. Obviously on the right I could look at the range and you see that 75% is the size the range uses, but I'm just trying to look at my hand and have a guess, but leaving on the right open so you can confirm whether it's right or wrong. Let's have a look at more. And you see that betting small really is the exception. Just be careful, on some boards the checking frequency is lower, like this one, and then other boards the checking frequency will be a bit higher. Let's do some more. Here with the 7 in the middle, I think checking most of the time is fine, but obviously you could sometimes bet this hand as well. Pocket aces, but the board will not have a high checking frequency, so the board will have a high checking frequency, so checking that makes sense, even though pocket aces. King jack here, you can bet, of course. I'm surprised it's always, I admit. Here the queen 10, I'll check it, but you could bet here, but it's not most of the time, so yeah. Let's do a few more, and then I think you got the idea. Ace queen, check a lot, but you can bet, but when you bet, even with those hands, use the correct sizing. So don't just say ace high or king high like here and go for 1/3. No, either check because you think your hand is pure check or mostly check, but when you bet the correct sizing. Have one size per strategy, otherwise when you think you're exploiting your opponents, in fact if they're any good, they will realize that the size doesn't make sense and therefore deduct that you probably have only one type of hands. So here even the ace king, large size. King queen, don't go for 1/3 just because of king high, either check or bet it large. And yeah, I hope you're getting the idea. This is somewhere you can practice. You see on the right the overall frequency, here mostly check, and then you guess your hand. Is your hand more or less than the global frequency? Here the pocket ace, what do you think? Will it check more? It checks a little bit more. The ace 10 here can probably bet a lot like the range, but let's have a look which one bets more. The range a little bit more than this hand specifically. Ace queen will be checking more than the global frequency of your range. Pocket eights also, a lot of checking here I suppose. Not that often we saw. Here these pocket eights though, I think, you bet this is more check than the range. The range 35, this one was more. Ace queen here I think bets a lot. Looking at the suit helps. Now pocket eights will be checking, but when it bets smaller than the average of your range, so your range could go larger, but the pocket eights here when bets smaller. Ace jack here we will be checking, but obviously more than the range, but still more betting than checking because your range is allowed to bet a lot. Queen 10 here pure check, I'd guess. And now I say let's come to the end. Queen 10 probably very mixed between check and bet. Whatever here, it doesn't matter, it'll be very close. More checking, I thought it'd be more or less 50-50, but it is 50-50 because there's a little bit of the larger bet sizing as well. So the conclusion of this is, try to have one size per board that you think makes most sense, and the size needs to have some sort of fundamental with theory. So on boards where you always see bet 75%, having a 1/3 range c-bet strategy in most cases will not make sense. There's not a problem to get it somewhat wrong, so you will never have the exact same check frequency, but if you realize what boards you check more and what you range bet, or at least bet very often, then your mistakes will be little. You'll be 10% off, 15% off the frequency. So recognizing high checking frequency, low checking frequency is important. Recognizing the correct bet size is important. And then you will see for your exact hand, you study ranges, and then you look where your hand is at the range. You see what kind of hands prefer checking, what betting, and you'll be doing fine. I hope this helps you. I at least hope that you'll stop 1/3 for the 9, 8 and 10 high boards out of position on the small blind against the button. If this helps, and if you want to know more about 3-bet pots, about c-betting there, please find my contacts in the YouTube description for coaching. If you want to practice on GTO Wizard, there's a 10% off link here in the YouTube description. See you in the next video.